Hi, I'm Kyle.
I'm Josh.
This is Two Guys, One Car.
Welcome to our car.
Dude, it starts with Two Guys, One Car. That's the name. It should start
It's
with
welcome to our car.
No, but it has to start with Two Guys, One Car because that's the name of the thing.
Just get in the back seat.
Ride along with us.
You feel like when you horse ride, like you have no... Like, do you get dehydrated from that?
No, I wouldn't say... Actually, that's a lie. When I get off, like I could drink a whole litre of water. I'm so thirsty. I think it's because like when I'm riding, like I'm concentrating so much on like the horse and what it's doing, and like you're just so zoned in, you don't think about anything else. And then as soon as I get off, I'm like, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty. Like, yeah.
I was going to say, it's probably like more like your mental state.
I think it's more, mental. Like sometimes it's physical. If you're like for a while I was riding my sister's show jumping horse, and I literally would look like I was gonna have a stroke. My face would be red, like I'd be so hot. But like riding like dressage and stuff, like I feel like it's not as much physical.
Yeah, okay.
There's some people who are gonna be like, that's such a lie. But by the time I get off, you just like remember everything you've got to do and like drink.
Yeah. Do you find it difficult to like converse? Because when we were riding before, like I was on a bike obviously, but like, because I'm focused on riding, like avoiding rocks and whatnot, I find it hard to like truly like be in the conversation and like be clear with my thoughts because I'm so focused on not falling off my bike. Is it the same?
I think it depends. Like if we're like having a chat about like our lives, like we were, I'm not like concentrating too much on him. Like I'm thinking a little bit about him if he's feeling like a bit anxious, but that's pretty okay. It's more if you're like having a lesson and you're really focused, but then you like, if you do have lessons, you grow up being able to like talk with your instructor as you're riding, but you're just talking about what you're doing. So
It's out there though, like when you said if he's feeling anxious, like how do you know that a horse is anxious?
That's exactly what I thought when you said that. I was like, well, I wasn't denying it. I was just like, that's so cool how you can actually like know.
I don't know, I just feel like you're always having like a little conversation with them while you're riding. Like when the bikes came around, like he heard the bikes before we heard the bikes, his ears like went back because there was something behind him, and then he started like picking up a little bit more, and so I looked behind and there was 3 bikes like racing towards us. Like they're always going to pick up on something before you do, so you sort of got to be like listening to them because they're telling you cues the whole time. And if you don't listen, then like stuff goes wrong. It's like when I'm riding him, if he's like, the other day I popped him into canter, moved transition, so like went into a faster like gate, and he started like kicking a bit and like throwing his back end out, so I know that he's like uncomfortable, so then I'll like figure out like if he's sore or if he's just like a bit grumpy. And
So it's like very physical signs that horses will display.
pretty like physical.
And then is that you learn those signs through just a number of years of like being around horses?
I think so. I think just like even just like observing them like with other horses, like a lot of the time like training cues and stuff literally comes from like seeing how horses interact with each other. So it is just like years of being around it. I guess if it's like having like any like a dog or something like that, like obviously they can't speak English, you learn to communicate with them like through different ways.
You see their personality show, like pets and stuff, through like interacting through different, like with other like breeds and stuff like that, or like another horse. I'm sure it's like you sort of have that type of like personality that they have, so then you develop it.
Like nothing's more dramatic than a horse. They're literally like the most dramatic creatures. The other day I was up at the stables, I was telling you this morning, and one of the horses at the stables has stomach ulcers at the moment, so they get a bit sensitive around their tummy. It's like anyone who would have an ulcer. And I was giving him a brush, and I was brushing his back, and I went towards his belly. I should have like thought about it beforehand that it might be uncomfortable, but because I was brushing him, I wasn't like doing up a girth or anything, and he just picked up his back leg and went like whack towards my head, and I was like, oh okay, like I've obviously upset you. And me and the stable hand were laughing because she was like, they're just so dramatic. Normally you just like shy away or something, but they're like, no, I'm gonna
Get off.
Another question I wanted to ask, you were saying that like Rocky, your horse, has like a crush or relationship with another horse in like the...
Actually?
Yeah, he's got a crush on this mare called Halo,
Yeah, and is that like, are you just picking that up through like watching him? Like, are you just watching him watch her and be like...
He does watch her a lot. Maybe it makes me a bit jealous. Maybe this is why. Well, like horses are herd animals, so like they form very strong bonds. And if you look at the stables, even though like they are in separate paddocks, because that's just how we've domesticated horses, like if they were all together, Rocky and Halo would be like the closest relationship that he would have like in that herd. And so yeah, you just like sort of observe that, like they call out to each other. If she's stressed, she'll call out to him and he'll call back to her, like if they can't see each other. And just like little things, like if she's, so like she has her naps because she's a bit chunky girl, and she like needs to lie down for a little bit in the mornings, and he'll watch her as she's lying down because like he's keeping watch. Because like typically if they were out in like the wild, don't think they'd survive, but he would be like watching out for like predators.
That's so cool.
It's so interesting. I was actually having this conversation with one of our friends, Nina, when we were in Hawaii actually, because we dropped some friends off skydiving. We drove past this farm and like she loves animals as much as me, so we just pulled in and we were just watching them, and she was just talking about like how much you can learn from just sitting and observing animals, especially horses, because there's a very like interesting dynamic that they have within a herd, like the lead horses, the ones who fall below the pack, and you can literally just sit for hours. I used to do it with the chickens, like at home. You can just sit forever and just like watch them and watch their like interactions and their dynamic, and it's very peaceful as well to do.
And do you feel like you could pick up like in a herd of horses, like who's the alpha, who's like the run to the pack, etc.?
Yeah, some like if you watch for a little bit, you can. Do you remember when we were walking through Terry Hills and we saw those horses, and I was just like talking about them, and that one like he sent this little pony away, and then the pony sort of like trotted away with his ears back because he was like a bit pissed off being sent away, but obviously that's the dominant. But then the pony put its neck down, he's like being submissive, and he was like licking and chewing a little bit, and he turned his head back to see if the other horse was going to invite him back in, but then the other horse was just like eating, so he was like, oh, okay, I can come back in. Like it's just, they're so interesting with like the little ways that they talk to each other. It's just like a throw of a head or like one ear back, or they'll like do a little kick out. And
something that we would overlook for the most part as well.
Yeah,
but it's
I feel like
that's really how they communicate, and like clearly you have an ability to like understand them just like being around them for most of your life. And it's like with human beings, I feel like a lot of people, that's how we communicate for the most part, is like non-verbal and through body language. But like with social media and things like that, we're just like getting further and further away from actually being able to like see people and communicate with them through our body language.
Yeah.
It's like picking up cues from different people, like even like through like interacting with animals and stuff like that, you connect on like an emotional level, so you start to be more emotionally intelligent with humans.
Yeah, I feel like that's literally.
And like even just like with eye contact and like, I don't know, just being like, it's so, I feel like when I like meet someone, or like you're basing your initial, before you even say a word, like you use language, which like we've developed over time. Like, well, firstly, like we never had language, so we developed through like emotional, like just like noises, I guess, and just showing through like the way we move and stuff like that. So I guess like we still do that like day to day. Before we even talk to someone, we like assess their almost like,
we can tell their mood, like someone walks out of their bedroom in the morning instantly.
You can tell their mood,
like that, or they look tired, or it's like even the way we present ourselves, like the way we present ourselves,
the way we,
is
like, hold ourselves,
correct, is like also a way that we like communicate like how we're feeling or whatever, and like how like where we're at.
Yeah, that would have to be the biggest factor, or one of the biggest factors why you're such a good communicator, purely like just being around animals your whole life. Like as you said that, I was like, that makes so much sense, because like you're really good at communicating with people and reading people and like meeting people where they're at. I think like you could come in, be having like an amazing day, come into someone that's like really had a crappy day, and like instantly you would just meet them where they're at, versus like, oh, I'm so happy.
That's high emotional intelligence.
But yeah, I think like having the horses, it teaches you to like slow down in your reaction. Like I'm not saying like I always have perfect reactions to things, but like today when we were showing Rocky the bike, like I knew he was going to freak out, but as soon as he had that massive outburst, if I'm going to be like, oh my God, Rocky, like calm down, like it's literally just going to send like shit's going to hit the fan. Whereas if you just like, I just stand there and I'm like, okay, like come back, like we're good, it's okay, and like not dramatize the situation. I feel like it's definitely like having the horses taught me like slow down in my like how I react to things and just like my interactions and stuff.
Yeah, it's almost like you're being less reactive to things, a bit more proactive. Yeah. So you assess what they're doing and then you act in a way of which it's like you've assessed.
Like it's not going to work in every situation. Sometimes like you get reactive, even like with the horses. It's like they freak out, like you jump as well. But yeah.
Yeah, it's like the reaction versus response, taking time to process what is going on and then like responding in an appropriate way versus the reactions that like involuntary, just like, or like anger, whatever it is, which isn't really helpful for anyone.
Like everything has to be slower with them. And like that's like my number one golden rule when I'm at the stables is that you don't rush. Because when I've rushed, like that's when I get hurt. And so everything is patience and not rushing. And yeah, it definitely like, if I can start my morning with like patience and not rushing because I ride him in the mornings, it fully affects my day. Thursday, Fridays, like the 2 days that I just like have off and give him a break, give me a break. But I do notice it in my mornings if I don't start it off in like that mindful, being slow, like being very like direct with like my actions and stuff, then I notice how it affects me.
Do you think that helps you?
Yeah, definitely. It definitely changes my mindset. Even like when I get to work, like if I have a great morning at the stables and being like very mindful, Rocky's in a good space, like I will be in a much more like accepting headspace when I get to work. But then again, like the other day I had a bad morning at the stables. He was being super anxious. He was like, he hit me in the head, like swinging his head around. Like it was just a bit hectic. There was so much going on. One of the horses we needed to call the vet out for. And by the time I got to work, I was like stressing. So some like 80% of the time it's like all well and good and it does put me in a good headspace, but sometimes it's
well it would just force you to slow down and like listen to yourself more. I'm assuming
definitely.
like you're like, I need to slow down, and then like it gives you a chance to meet yourself where you're at. Like, oh, I'm feeling calm today, or I'm feeling anxious, and like it allows you to make these like micro adjustments to get to where you want to be ultimately, which is just calm and peaceful.
You have to be like very self-aware when you're around them. It's like what I was saying to you today, like I'll never ride if I'm upset because they feel everything that you are feeling. Like you're literally on top of them, like they're feeling your muscle reactions, you're feeling their muscle reactions. You're literally just both reading each other the whole time. Like if I get there, I'm like in tears, I'm shaking, Rocky's gonna be like, why the heck are you shaking? Like they just feel everything. So it definitely, you have to like assess how you're feeling, what your mind's doing.
And to speak on the disconnect that like we have with our bodies as humans, like just through the way we live our lives, like you were saying before that like your like through riding and stuff, your hip flexors got really, really tight and your legs were actually different lengths. And she was riding a horse and like you can tell the story, but I think like the horse wasn't like that good.
Yeah, she was like really young and so she was just like an unbalanced horse anyway. And I was training her up for a friend's mum who'd brought her back, and I was riding and her mum was like, oh, Phoebe, your stirrups are at different lengths, which is what you put like your feet into in the saddle. And I was like, no, they're the same length. And she was like, well then your legs are different lengths. And I went to my physio and they were actually like different lengths, and it was really affecting the horse. So like he did his thing and I started doing my exercises and it really affected the horse once my legs were normal lengths.
Which is insane, right?
That's so whack.
You can recognize an imbalance within like Phoebe, which she couldn't even recognize within herself.
Yeah, I literally had no idea. They'd probably been like out of whack for a while.
But it's wild because it is such a slippery slope with things like that. I remember when I played cricket, like I was a bowler and left-handed, just like ball after ball after ball. Like over the years, my shoulder just got so tight, all the muscles, because like at this point I wasn't going to the gym. So there was really no like strength and support work for my shoulders or anything. And my shoulder got to a point where it was so tight that I was like this. Like I'm exaggerating it right now, but like my left shoulder was so much higher. And I did this thing where I would always lift my t-shirt up because it was uncomfortable. And I went to my osteopath and he was just like looking me over and he's like your shoulders are so out of whack. And he showed me in the mirror and it was such a like massive step up and step down. And like we narrowed it down like just from cricket, like that's what it had to be.
Because cricket's so unnatural. Like bowling doesn't make sense.
Like literally like putting your arm around him like that.
Like a windmill. But also be parallel with like everything that's going on. So the batter, the stumps, like it just doesn't make sense. Like we're not meant to be doing it.
Exactly. So after like being like, that's insane, because it was at least for like a year or so that I had that, because I would always consciously knew that I did that t-shirt thing. I would pull it up because it was uncomfortable. And it was
just like never thought about why
I never thought about why I did it. And then when he pointed it out, it was just like, holy moly, like over this like course of a few years, my shoulder has just gotten tighter and tighter and tighter, and I've had no idea at all. And I like to think that if we're more connected with our bodies, we can listen to our bodies more and recognize all of these signs and catch these things before they become like a massive imbalance. But it's so amazing how like a horse has that much awareness and intelligence to recognize that its rider is out of balance.
Yeah, they're just like amazing. Like they're just so sensitive, and they can just completely tell. I actually I had this coach for years, and I had a very sensitive mare at the time, and my family's like quite holistic, and we always did kinesiology growing up and stuff, and my sister had this amazing kinesiologist who actually lived in Terry Hills, and sometimes she'd work on animals. And I was having issues with my mare, and a mare is a female horse, by the way. And so she came over and she was just working on her, and I had a feeling, I knew what it was, like sort of like a deep knowing, but I never wanted to admit it. And she was like, there's something between this mare and your coach that you have, like they're too strong and their energy is like not right. And I just knew it was my coach because they were like a bit stronger. Sometimes I even felt like, oh, they're not quite like aligned with how I want to be training. And so she was like, you need to like imagine this golden orb around your mare, like if they are riding or if she is in a situation where you think, oh, whoever is with her, like they're too strong. And I would start doing this, and I just sort of started like picking up on cues when I could feel like that deep knowing that something was too strong for her. And I slowly like started to distance her away from like certain styles of training, and it did help in the end. It ended up being like that situation that was just too much for her. And so they are really sensitive to like how you feel, and I think this person was just like bringing a lot of baggage into like the training sessions that we'd have, and she would like pick up on it every time.
That's wild. Do you think horse riding and like being outdoors in nature and that like slow environment has sort of influenced your like creative field and like the art that you do?
Yeah, I think they do like go hand in hand sometimes. I feel like a big thing in my life is always like, I'm not the most patient person, but I find I have all these hobbies that like force me into being a really patient person. I actually remember when I first met my boyfriend, my dad made this like random throwaway comment to him. He was like, oh, can you teach Phoebe to be more patient? But I find I do have like all these very slow hobbies, and they do complement each other. So I think that, having the horses, it does, and like being more patient, it then like translate into the art. And my sister, she always talks about these, she's older, and she always talks about having soul food, which is like the things in your life that really like make your soul sing, like really just feed you. And I do think like art and horses and just like having like nature and animals around me really is like my soul food. So I think they all do complement each other and like help each other and then help me.
And it's funny that I was like, that seems to be a subconscious thing for you. Like you're not conscious of picking those things because you're like, you deem yourself impatient. It's actually like you've just somehow put yourself in that situation just because maybe it's a subconscious telling you it's like you need to.
They've literally just been things that I've had since I was like started doing since I was really young. Like I started writing when I was 4. And like I was doing art like since I was really little because my mum's a sculptor and my grandmas are both like very artistic and stuff, so they always
so your ability to like draw and create has just always been there.
It's always been there, and it's always been something that like I've actively wanted to like have as well. So it's interesting how the stuff that I've like held on to, because I think I've done like a lot of, I mean, like when you're a kid, you do so many random hobbies and like some stuff sticks and some stuff didn't. And like sometimes even the stuff that you're really talented at just doesn't stick. Like when I was in primary school, I was really into athletics and I was like, ask Bailey Wilson, I was a pretty quick runner. And it was just one of those things that like naturally I found like I was pretty good at. But like I just did not ever want to go to training. It was one of those things. Once I was there, I'd like it, but mum would literally have to drag me to training. And but like art and horses, it was just those things that like I never had to be asked to like go up to the stables and muck out or like get up at 6 a.m. and do the horses. For ages we had the horses on our property, and for like over 10 years, it probably was like over 15 years maybe, we like would every morning get up at 6 a.m, me and my sister, and every afternoon be up there at 4 p.m. doing the horses every single day. Like you can't skip a day, it's like an animal. So
and you have to have that love for that.
You have to,
That's just straight discipline. Like
Because how else are you going to do it? And then on top of that, like riding and like being with them on the weekends, like you have to have that passion and that discipline. I think like passion and discipline really have to go like hand in hand.
For sure, definitely. And I think like especially in the case of horse riding, like I think clearly you have to want to be there, otherwise the horse, like if you don't want to be riding the horse, like I'm sure they're going to recognize that, and it's going to be no fun for anyone.
Yeah.
So like it's amazing that you've had that. When we look at drawing, like what is it about drawing a flower, drawing something in nature? Like what does that do for you? How do you feel when you're creating these pieces?
Yeah, I feel like the drawing thing, there's something about creating something that looks super realistic that is very like satisfying for me. I'm not saying like everything I draw is like beyond realistic, but there's just something about like finishing a drawing and seeing it that makes me feel really proud of myself. I feel like for a long time though, I battled like a lot of need of like validation with art, and that was something I really had to work through when I was coming off doing a degree. I was doing a degree in natural history illustration, and that ended up like shutting down after a year, and I came home and I'd been drawing for so long in that year, and it was like intensive drawing. Like I just drew all day, like literally 8 hours a day I would draw, and everything I would draw would get marked, and everything that would get marked like came with a comment, and typically it was a good comment because I was giving like it my all. And so coming off that, every time I draw, like I was sort of like, where's my validation? Like who's going to tell me it's good?
Because that's like all you need.
That's all I was doing. And it was probably all I'd been doing for a long time, but because before that I was doing art in school, and I was doing like art to get into Art Express, and I was always doing art for like other people or to like get a validating comment. And I think like I struggled with validation through school anyway, like always wanting to please and like do it for other people. So that was definitely something, like I worked with frequency coaches and like people after school, again, getting a bit holistic, but it's just like the way I like to work. And really like disconnecting art from having to be something.
Yeah, which is hard because for the most part, like when someone creates a piece of art, like you go to an art museum to look at people's art, to comment on people's art. It's like, I've drawn this picture for you. It's like, what do you think of it? Like there's always that comment attached to it for the most part. Definitely. So you can easily see how like growing up, especially like through your teens and drawing, like being at a time where like everyone's seeking validation, everyone's trying to find their identity and their purpose. And then it's like, just seeking that, craving that validation.
When we were speaking to Sam Harvey yesterday, we were talking about that too. And like his actual challenge was for like creators of some sort, just to do something that was solely serving them. So like if no one was to, we ended up like landing on like after collaboration, like if no one was to look at it, would you be happy that you actually just created that? So it's so like true. That actually links to what we were talking about the other day, is that because it's just like if you're making something, it's like, especially with art and like drawing and stuff like that too, that's like that is like pure creativity. Do you know what I mean? So it's like if you're doing it for someone else, then there's already the limitations of putting on it, and it's just you're not fully connecting with your creative side. Do you feel like you over time have been better at like linking with your creative side, or like have you always been really good at it? Or
I think I've like always been like very connected to it. It's always been like a big thing in my life. At times it's like come in and out, and then at other times it's been really strong, like when I was coming off the degree and struggling with validation, and I was talking to this one lady and we're just trying to link like creating to something other than validation. And I had this like image of what I wanted to do, this like big charcoal I love charcoal, and I only have ever used charcoal like a few times, and I did it.
What reason?
It's kind of messy, and it's like
imperfect.
It's just like a little bit imperfect. It's like super scratchy. You've got to get like a bit involved with it and stuff. And normally, I sound like such a tired ass, but like normally my drawings were like pencil and like watercolor, and it's all very like small paintbrushes, small little pencils. Whereas charcoal, you just like get a little block of it and you just go for it. And I had this like image of this like big chunky horse in my head, this big black horse, and I wanted to draw it for so long. And I saw this like beautiful photo on Instagram of this horse, and I messaged like the photographer and I was like, oh, can I use, because like, if you're drawing from Instagram, like I typically ask if I could use it. And I kept seeing all these photos and I was like, okay, I have this image in my head of what I want it to look like. And I did this big charcoal drawing of a horse, which is on my Instagram.
Yeah, I love that drawing.
And that moment was like the first time in ages that I'd really like done art for myself. And I feel like it was the first time like I felt super connected to my creativity. Like I was saying, like I sort of went in and out, like it was there because I was good at it and because people would tell me I was good at it. But it was the first time I did not give a crap if someone liked it or not. I looked at it and I knew like that made me happy.
That's so cool.
And I knew that I liked it. And it's so weird looking back at it now because the horse is a spitting image of Rocky, my horse now.
No way.
And I feel like in that moment, like I'll show you a photo of the drawing after and a photo of Rocky. I feel like in that moment I was like deeply manifesting this horse.
Rocky,
because you'll see like when you see it's literally like a spitting image.
Amazing.
And in my head I like, it was something that like I did want. It just like came from like a real deep place of.
How do you find navigating the challenge between, like obviously to get paid in your field, like you need to be meeting like requirements and what people are wanting, right? So you're creating for somebody else. How do you find that challenge of like wanting to have your creative freedom to do what you do for yourself, but at the same time, like packaging it up in this like neat box that somebody else wants?
I feel like that's another thing I sort of struggled with at the start. Especially when I started doing graphic design, because I'd always want to draw and they'd be like, we don't want like drawing, like we just want it to look this way, like this is trending, do this. But I found finding, when I was freelancing, finding clients, or maybe I didn't even find them, they sort of just found me, who just would see what I do and they'd want like a part of that. And they came to me for a specific reason, like when Sam and Grace came to me for doing Honey Films, doing their branding for that, and they wanted this beautiful like illustration of a plant involved in it. And so working on like good briefs and with good people, I've been really lucky. And then they recommended me to a couple of people and stuff. So I haven't had too much struggle with that, but it definitely like restricts you sometimes. But I think that's when it's important to like have something going on the side. And that's like when I would do ceramics during COVID. I was working on a few randomly, like a lot of wedding photographers came to me. I'm thanking Sam Harvey for that one. Like that really got me through COVID. But I was working on that. But when I'd stopped working on that, like I'd just do my little ceramics thing on the side, and it was sort of imperfect. I was just making mugs and stuff, but it sort of gave me a little bit more flow.
So you think that's always something you'll have, like you'll have your paid work that you do, but you'll always have the work you do just for yourself?
Yeah, I think now I've realized like it's weird, it's like two creative things like complementing each other. I think now I've realized I need to have something that's like going on for me on the side, and maybe it's not going to be all the time. Like since starting my new job I haven't had like a creative hustle, but I think just like having Rocky and that's like enough. Like to
it's cool to see that, like in terms of the paid work, it's almost like you want people to buy your creativity and your sort of vision rather than buy the actual skills that you possess in making something realistic.
And I think that's something that like you can't like force too much. I was just lucky that people would see my Instagram and see what I was doing and they came to me for that, whereas for like a moment when I was trying to force it, I was like going to people and it was just never working. Like I wouldn't get a job, I would get turned down because I was literally just trying to force it. And then I sort of took a step back from that and just like let people come to me a little bit more. And that's when the jobs flow, and that's when you feel like even if it's not your like initial idea, you have a lot of creative like freedom.
Yeah, we were speaking about that before, like talking about wanting things to happen and trying to force things in life, and how for the most part like so much is out of our control and we want these things, so we like really hone in and try to get them to happen, but for the most part we just can't. And you found the most success in life when you just let go and ride the wave. How have you learned to let go? Like what do you do practically to help yourself just give into it all?
I feel like I've learnt to let go just because every time I haven't, I've just like literally gotten nowhere. And so it's literally just been through trial and error. And now I'm at the point where I can recognize when I'm trying to like push something too hard. And when I say take a step back, like I literally have to look at myself from a bird's eye view and be like, just take a step back from that situation that you're trying to like literally force yourself onto. like I use my job that I'm in as an example a bit, because for like a year I was trying to get work as a print designer. And I did an internship, which was great, with another company. I like had great girls who were mentoring me in that, and then I didn't get a job with them, and that was pretty, like, I think you were like there at the moment, and that was like pretty hard because I was interning with another girl, and we both wanted the job, but we both also like cared about each other to get the job. But then I got an email being like, yeah, we're so excited, we want to hire, we're hiring the other girl, and that was like really hard. That's one of those moments where you sort of look back and you're like,
fully, because like in those scenarios where it's like you're putting the competition together, it's so hard and so unnatural, because like you're human beings, you want to be able to connect, but at the same time, throughout that whole relationship, you knew the underlying theme was you're both competing for the one.
Like we were both being told there's one position that's going to come at the end of this. We both like became friends, and you both like want to, like, you work really hard, we were there every day, like you both wanted it. So then that didn't happen, and then I was trying to like get into jobs with other places, and I was calling and emailing, and then I got an opportunity for an internship actually at the place I work at the moment, and I went for the interview and they forgot that I was coming. And then I ended up like emailing back and forth with the manager, and she was like, yeah, maybe not. It just wasn't the right time for them, but I wanted it to be so badly, and I was almost forcing them to be like, no, it is the right time. Like, it's the right time for me. It's the right time for you. Tell me it's the right time. And they were good enough to recognize that no, and they weren't going to lead me on. And so I was at the stables, and I just realized that like whenever a good job has ended for me, like a freelance job, something has come along and I just haven't forced it. And I was like, I just need to take a step back and not force it. So I did. And then literally like a couple of weeks later, they emailed me saying, one of our designers just left, like, we'd like to interview you for an actual role here. So
that's amazing. Awesome.
And now I'm there. I love it.
What was it like, them forgetting that you were coming? Like, how did that make you feel? Because like, you had been wanting this for so long. You like got confirmation that like something was happening. So like your hopes and expectations, whilst you're probably trying not to get too high on it, you're so excited. You can't to then them just forgetting about you. Like, how did that make you feel?
It's so funny. Like, if I played the day as well, like, I was so organized about it. I had my whole portfolio printed onto my iPad because that's like, it looks most professional. I had all of my artwork with me in a new folder I'd bought from Officeworks because I wanted it to look super clean. I'd like signed everything. I had gone through and made a book from one of my field journals that I had in my degree. I'd like stamped, not stamped, like punctured holes in it and like full made a book out of it. I'd bought a new outfit to wear to the interview so that I looked like really clean and like schmick and stuff. Like, I was so excited.
The full 9 yards.
Full 9 yards. I like got there half an hour early. I got to park out the front. I was like, this is a sign.
Yeah, I got to park at the front. Oh, you're just taking everything you can get. You're like,
everything was working for me, and I was so organized. And I like, it's an elevator to get up to the first floor, and I got in the elevator, and I was like, there was a mirror, and I was like, yes, you got this, girl. You look great. Like, everything was there. I was so organized. My mum called me on the way. She's like, you got this, and I was like, yes. And the elevator door opened up, and when you walk into our studio, you walk into like a sales room, and then all the girls are on the other side. And I walked in, and it was a bit chaotic, and there was girls like all in the sales room. They were obviously prepping something. Now knowing the business, like, it just would have been a really chaotic day. And I walked in, and everyone just stopped and looked at me, and I was like, hi.
And they're like, oh.
And they were like, no, they didn't even know who I was.
oh, like, what are you doing?
No, they were like, who are you? And I was like, oh, I'm Phoebe. Like, I have a 2 o'clock meeting with so-and-so. And they were like, oh, she's not in today. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And they were nice enough, bless them. One of the sales ladies, Natasha, she came and interviewed me. Like, looking back now, she would have been having such a hectic day as well, and she just like came down and sat and interviewed me. It was actually really sweet of her looking back on it. And she probably had no idea what was going on. She probably didn't even know I was going to be there. And so she took out time of her day and interviewed me, and and then I left, and I just like cried in the car.
Oh no.
But it's funny that it's just like me forcing it though, and I was so organized. Second time around interviewing, I was like running late. I was speeding through the city. I like had an outfit in the back of my car that I just chucked on. Like my iPad didn't download my portfolio properly, so I had an old portfolio with me, and like thank God I had a couple of drawings, and I was so just like unorganized, not really with it, a bit flustered, and
it figures
like,
itself out.
and it just I ended up getting the job like that afternoon. Like it really has been like such a big teaching for me is don't force it. Like I'm always like a big believer in everything happens for a reason. Like let it come to you.
And it's almost like when you look at if you have the two timelines of like really organized prep Phoebe and then like chaotic, like running late Phoebe.
Chaotic Phoebe always wins.
Yeah, no, always. And it's like the realistic side of it. It's like we can't always have this like pretty packaged life that is so neat and organized. Like we try so hard to get everything looking great, but it's not the reality. The reality is like you're running late, you've hit a traffic light, like all these things, and it's like that's when it's going to work, when you're just being genuine, like when you're not trying so hard and you just like are yourself and exist as that person.
It really is.
That's when things will happen for you.
Yeah, like even when I was interning, I was in this store in Freshwater that I really wanted to work at because they do beautiful prints, and I just thought, oh, it'd just be nice to have a retail job because I wasn't getting paid to intern. And I was in the store and I was buying this top, and I don't know where it came out from. I actually thought of you in the moment. I was like, if I don't do this, Josh is going to kill me. So I just like said to you, I was like, oh, do you have any jobs coming up here? Like any Christmas jobs? And she goes, oh yeah, my manager's actually here at the moment. Do you want to have do you want me to get her? And I was like, yeah, that'd be great. So the manager came out and she was like, do you want to go get a coffee? So we went and got coffee together. I like literally got the job on the spot. Like I started working like a couple of days later.
How good is that?
And I loved that job. Like they were just the best girls there. So I've actually been really fortunate to work in like very great like girl groups, like where I have worked. So when it works, I always seem to get into these like great communities. Yeah. So
I think that's a natural thing for you as well. Like being the person you are, like you seek those good relationships. So like you're not going to settle for anything less. Like if you're in that environment, like it's not by luck. It's like you're like, no, this isn't where I want to be. So I'm going to go and find people that are going to be my people and be good for me.
Yeah, definitely.
So at the moment, do you work with like other artists?
Yeah, so at the moment, like, so I work in a print studio that they pretty much just do fashion.
Okay.
So I work with 6 other designers. We have like our senior head designers and stuff. But yeah, I work with 6 other designers. I'd say they're all artists. If the girls heard this, we'd be like, no, we're not artists. But they are artists. They do like amazing work. They're very talented. So
to lay out the timeline, is it like from you guys designing a print to like it being on a piece of fashion, what does that look like? And like what's the inspiration for the print that you design?
I feel like it's very different if you look at like a studio as opposed to a business, as opposed to a freelancer. Like typically everything's designed a year in advance when it comes to fashion. So like recently before I got the job, I was freelancing for this business and I was working on their spring 2023 collection. Wow. So by the time you've done a print and it comes out, it's a year later, you've literally like lost all emotional attachment to it, which is kind of good as well. But yeah, for us, like the girls are we're doing prints every day, and our inspo comes from like we have talented management who also are subscribed to very great places that can forecast like trends. So everything's just coming from like briefs, which is like storyboards of what's about to trend, and then we create designs for it, and some things stick, some things don't trend. Like the whole world of trends is just a whole nother thing.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing how I find it's actually pretty admirable how people can use, like I'm not really like overly artistic or like creative. I'm more like, you disagree or you do agree?
No, I agree. Like you're not.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm terrible with it. I'm more just like.
You have good like blends, I would say. Like you can like identify like good like color mixes and things like that.
Oh yeah, like I have a basic. Yeah, that's like, yeah, the creative side is not a thing. I'm more just like more order and just like that sort of stuff. Like I study economics, so it's like that speaks for itself. Okay. It's literally like numbers, like that.
So like that's a good insight.
His room is like bed, table, lamp.
Like minimal, just is what it is.
Do you have a bed frame?
No. Yeah.
So we had to find a guy who has a bed frame.
Really? No guy. So you know.
Zev has one, but that's because my mum gave it to him. But yeah, you don't have a bed frame.
I have a like.
You go.
I have like it sits on, what are they called?
like a stand.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't have like a bed frame.
No, not a frame. Used to when I was.
I got one recently, but no, you're gonna laugh. It's way less than you think. So
it's not nice.
I've been sleeping with my mattress on the floor for like a very long time. And what I found was, because it was just on the floor, like I'd lifted it up to vacuum the rug one day and it was just wet and moldy. And I was like,
You're literally sleeping
did I like pee myself and not like what is happening?
Yeah, shit myself. Yeah.
And I was like, holy moly. So I aired out my mattress and was like, what's going on? Cleaned it all.
This is a swag mattress, hey?
Yeah. So it's like quite a thin, like 70 mil.
Yeah, I remember when I saw it, I was like,
what is this? Yeah. So like put it back down, all good, sleep on it. And then like 2 weeks later, pick it up. I'm like, this is wet again. What's happening? And I realized like, because there's no aeration, so it's just building up. So what I did was, I didn't want to buy like a frame or anything. So I just went on Marketplace, found like a free kids IKEA bed frame, went and picked that up, and I was sleeping on that for so long. And like, cause it's made for children, I'm like 90 kilos, so it's not made for me. So the slats are so squeaky. Like I roll and it's like, and then it got to the point where they just started like falling in. So I'd just be sleeping and like my head would just fall back, or like half my body.
And like I'd go over and like you see just like the top left corner just like down. And but like it wouldn't change over like 2 weeks. I'm like, does that happen every night, or does that stay like that? He accepted it.
And I was like, it's fine, like I really don't need to fix this. And then I was like, no, I can't do this. So I just started throwing my mattress on the floor, sleeping on it. In the morning I would like put my mattress up, set it against the wall, do that at night. And then I was like, right, I can fix this. And then just like at work, I got some like scrap timber and cut it up, so it's like thicker now and it's perfect. But I have a kid's IKEA bed frame that I sleep on.
If mum ever heard this conversation, she would literally go and buy you a new mattress and a bed frame. Like I can just imagine like the thought of you like sleeping just like on something that like is an IKEA falling apart bed frame would like keep her up at night.
No way. It's so normal though, like when you walk in, like it doesn't, I don't bat an eye to it. It just makes sense.
I mean, if it works, it works for you.
100%.
It's great.
Yeah.
I love it.
So what I was saying is like, I'm like not like that. So it's interesting to see like how you can work and how businesses work in like creative space, or especially art or design, like the stuff you do. It's like being able to function creatively in like a capitalism like sort of structure. Like the fact that you're like, you guys design something, it sells, you go back again. So you need to design, and you're saying it's like based on trends, etc. So you have that element of like you're being forced to do certain things in like that sort of market because you need to sell. But it's like, but you have to be creative, and then you have to work with 5 other people to do.
And you have to get your designs approved. Like nothing goes through without getting approved. And so you've pretty much got to like look at the story. We call them storyboards. It has like a color palette, like inspo for like that collection. And you've got to look at it and be like, okay, how can I take that and make it cool and make it worth the money as well? Because that's also a big thing. It's like, well, is it worth like what people pay? And it should be like, you should be putting that effort into it, and everyone does because they care. But it definitely, sometimes it does feel like a little bit forced, and sometimes you do feel like you are forcing that creativity. But it's like, I guess it's like any skill, like the more you do it, the better you get. And you do get good. Like when I'm drawing a lot, like I get fast and I get better. And it's the same as this, like if I'm trying to be creative and like think of new ways to do something, the more I'm doing it, like the better I get it.
It's cool to have like you back to having like 5 or 6 people in like the situation. It's like you can draw off there, and like I find that when like, because we're working together, it's like 2 brains put together for the same purpose. It's so sick, because like if you're in an open mind, it's like you're being open-minded with like 6 different like minds trying to find like a little spark. So that someone gives you a spark and someone else gives you a spark. And then you haven't even done anything and you've thought of an idea based off what they're thinking.
Literally. And that's so literally it. Like sometimes like I'll just turn my computer to one of the girls and be like, what do I do? And they just have this random idea that you would never have thought of ever. And it just will completely change the design. And then you're like down a new path. And I always remember I went to this exhibition once with this amazing artist called Joshua Yeldum. You guys would love him. He's actually based on the beaches. And
the owl?
Yes, he's the owl. We have a print of his in our house because mum just loves him. And he is also like a very mindful person, and he does a lot of, feel like he's just as like artistic as he does work in like the mindful space and stuff. And I went to an exhibition of his and he was doing a talk beforehand, and he does these like big artworks, and he said whenever he gets really stuck, he takes his favorite part of the artwork and like breaks it down pretty much. And typically when you're stuck, you take what you don't like and you take it out and you try to keep adding on to what you do like. But I just thought it was so interesting how he takes his favorite part and he just starts to like break it down. And that can mean lots of different things.
Yeah.
Like it could physically mean like you are breaking that part and like drawing over it, or you take that part and you just get rid of it and you like build on top of it. And I think about that a lot, especially when I'm doing my own thing. Like if I get really stuck, it's like, what do I love about this? Okay, this is what I love about it. How can I now change this? Because this is going to set me on a new path with this artwork. Like you go through so many emotions, and I guess at work it's a little bit different because things happen quicker and you are very much designing for other people. But I know when I'm doing my own art, it's like the emotions that you always love it, and then you go through a phase where you hate it so much, and then you're like, I should burn this because I suck and I'm the worst artist in the world. And then you go on Instagram and you're like, wow, all these other people are amazing artists. I hate it even more. And then you'll just change that one thing, and it might be like that part where you break it down, your favorite part, and then you just love it. It's great. So
That'd be hard to look at as well, as like knowing what the creative process is, but still seeing all you see is the final product. Like when you're looking for inspiration on socials and stuff, and just seeing that final product, you're just like, oh wow, they're so good. But it's like they probably went through the I hate myself, I absolutely suck as well. But with art, like that would be so difficult to see.
Like anything, like comparison is the thief of joy. Like if you're here like comparing your podcast to another one, you're like, oh, like we're never going to get there or something, you just wouldn't.
No, because then you're just going to stop and not keep going further. It doesn't make any sense.
Understanding it's like really subjective, and like it's completely different to any other podcast. Sure, there might be some similar, but there's no other Kyle Epplett living on this planet Earth. There's no other Josh Van Sweden. So it's once you understand that, and that's when you're truly your best. Like you look at some of the best athletes in the world, like they all say like when I'm having fun is when I'm at my best. When I'm just playing, that's when I perform my best. So when you can come in here with no thought of comparison and just do what you do, like that's
have fun with it.
That's when the product is going to be the best it can ever be. Because it's genuine to you at that point.
That's how it is at work as well. Like sometimes you'll get a storyboard and you just like click with it and you just love it and you're just having fun with it, and then you send the design in and they're like, oh, this is great, like finalize it, go with it. So yeah, it really is. I love when you have that natural flow with anything, like not just with art, like when you're just having fun with it and you're like giving it your all, but it just feels effortless.
It's the best.
It's the best way to live. How do you find the culture is obviously massive, as you said, like you're all bouncing off each other at work and stuff. If someone's like comes in having like something happen at home and they're having an off day, how much does that impact the mood and like the team's ability to create and collaborate?
I guess it just depends on like individual personalities, but I think just where I work in an all-girl studio as well. Everyone is very empathetic and they're all very caring. Like if someone walks in and they're not having a good day, it's almost like a queen bee walks in sick and like all the other bees like go to like help the queen bee. Not saying that there is a queen bee in our studio, but it is that sense, like you sort of just like fix that one, or like sometimes they just want to put their headphones on and like literally be left alone. But you can sense when someone walks in and they're not having a good day. I guess it's like anyone that you work with closely, you start to really pick up on emotions. So it definitely does like affect the group, but I wouldn't say in like too negative a way. I guess everyone just becomes a bit more sensitive and like more carrying that day.
And what's the actual like studio setup like? Like how is that? How does your work environment impact you? Because like given that you've done a few internships at different places, like how have you found the actual workspace?
The literal physical workspace, I feel like it's set up in a way I've never sort of been in that type of setup. They have 2 long tables and we sit 6 girls at each table, and it's sort of like all the designers sit at one table, and then more management and like sales and like social media, they all sit, and so we are all like directly next to each other. It's very like close quarters. We don't have like blinkers or like booths or anything. It's all just like open. Like when I sit at my desk, I like see the girls right next to me and I see the girls 2 diagonal to me. Like I can see everyone.
I think that's great.
I think it's what you need in a creative studio. Like when you're collaborating, not that we have a lot of collaboration between each other, but we definitely bounce off each other.
That goes back to the emotional stuff we've been talking about, because I noticed that when we work together, it's like, say I'm like in a rut or like I can't develop concentration or something, and I look up and like you're just like zoned into what you're doing. I'm like, hell yeah. I'm like, I'm doing that. Yeah. So you don't even say words. Like you're not saying any words.
You look at them and you're like, you're so motivated. I should be motivated too. Yeah.
And then you pick up off that.
Yeah.
It's like it adds to it. Yeah. And working just as a unit. So even though you feel like you're not working as a unit because you don't collaborate, it's like you actually are.
You are. Yeah.
Yeah.
You get like a
same energy.
And that's what like getting rid of the booths do, like the physical booth, the physical wall, like that is such an emotional thing in itself, where it's like when you have that private space, you're like, oh, like I can be secret here, I can slack off because no one's watching me, or it's like very individual. But as soon as you remove those, it's like we're a team, we're here together, and it's like it's that unity energy versus like this booth, that booth, that booth, like it's all these different energies, but when it's together, it's like no, we're all like trying to strive for that.
Because imagine if you like were like all separate and you're like you've all got your mini tasks and you come together to like present it. It's like they've only seen you present it. They don't see you going like, fuck, I can't fix this, and show them the computer like, help me. And it's like they see you go through that. It was like saying before with the socials, it's the same thing. They see you go through the process. It's like, so when they do it as well, it's like, oh, it's fun. Like Phoebe did this. Do you know what I mean? It's like bouncing back and forth.
I just like being able to like see everyone and have that around me. I think for so long, before I moved to Newcastle to do my degree, I always thought I was like a solo artist in a sense. Like I liked working by myself. I liked doing things by myself. And I moved to Newcastle and I was doing like a lot of drawing by myself, and I got so isolated, and it affected, it was probably like the hardest mental health like episode that it was like my first really introduction to like mental health issues and isolation, and I felt really lonely, and and I just really craved having connections, and I ended up moving home after a year, like coincidentally because the degree was finishing as well. And when I came back, I went and did a certificate in graphic design, and I just met the most amazing bunch of people, and they opened me up into that world of creative collaboration. And it completely changed the way I like work, the way I do things. Like I think I'm bad at like asking for help as well. And they really like forced me into being comfortable asking for help and asking for advice, and like turning your computer to ask like advice and not being scared if it's shit, and if because you don't care if they're going to judge you, because all you actually you're just seeking like getting past this rut. Like that's what you're actually seeking. I just like I always say, I don't like freelancing, because it does it scares me about that time when I felt really isolated and I was by myself like a lot, but also I just love collaborating now. And even when I was freelancing, if I had a like a client who I could collaborate with a lot, like that was just the best. So I think now I know that like the best form of like creating is like having people around you and like a bit of and chatting about it, and like having that real flow, like getting into that real.
Well, that's like where the best projects are. And when you look at like massive projects, like whether it's construction projects or art projects, whatever it is, it's like there's always a team of people sitting around like discussing, collaborating about like what this thing could look like. It's rarely one guy being like, this is it, I've got it all in my head, I don't need anyone's else perspective.
And if you have like a leader, it's like that person's just like controlling the environment rather than being like no, yes, exactly. It's like they just control it.
Why do you think you're bad at asking for help?
I don't know why it is. Maybe it's because I don't want to bother people. I feel like I'm just bad at asking for favors and stuff. Like even the other day, like such little things, like I really needed someone to go check on the dogs, so I get quite anxious about my animals. And I couldn't think of anyone to call to like take them out of their own day to go do something for me. And Zeph was like, why don't you just like ask a favor of a friend? Like, and I just could not think of anyone to like that I would feel comfortable asking a favor of.
So what did you do?
I ended up calling my best friend Ruby. I was like, can you go up to my house and check on my dog? And she did. She like did it without a heartbeat. And if like you turn the tables, like I would do that without.
So it's about to ask is like, would you do that for someone else?
Yeah, like.
You would do so much more.
Yeah, like I would be so happy to. But for some reason, I just like, I have this like thing in my head that I can do it myself. Like I always say to mum like, oh, I'll just figure it out later. Like I can do it myself. I'll figure it out later.
Don't you think that's funny? It's like some people, I don't know if there's more ways than this, but most people like have trouble asking for help because of either that or because of their ego.
Yeah.
In a sense of like, it's like no, I can figure this out myself. Get caught up in that, especially with the ego side of things. Like I definitely get that sometimes.
Yeah.
I'll be doing something, it's like, no, I can do this by myself. I don't need help. Or someone asks me something.
And I think sometimes that can be a good thing because it encourages you to like persevere and then you get to the other side and you're like, yeah, I can do that. Like I know I can do that and I did it.
Yeah.
But I think it is super important. Like ultimately anyone that says that like completely independent, they're lying. Like we depend on everyone for everything, like whether it's the food you source, like from the shops, like you depended on the farmer to grow that food. And like I'm yet to meet a person that is completely independent and does not need to rely on any other human being on this earth to survive.
I wonder if they'd have a big ego.
I would. They would have to, and I can't see that person exists.
Yeah, no.
Because it's like, and like you were dependent upon somebody else for your life, for starters. So like we're all dependent in that way.
Yeah.
It's just like I feel like for me, I'm like, I have only recently started trying to seek more like individual type things, like spending more time by myself. But like I could never picture myself being dependent on just myself. No way. Like I'm with someone, like honestly, like more than 95% of the time I'm with someone else, like even when I'm asleep. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like even when I'm just like, I don't even go to bed by myself like one night out of the week maybe.
Yeah, I feel like becoming comfortable, like really being by yourself is a really important.
No, it's massive. Because a fascinating question I like to ask people is like, when was the last time you were by yourself for more than 24 hours? And I mean no human interaction. Most people can never tell me a time that they've had that.
Because you go back and you're like, month, year,
and you're
2 years. You're like, I don't even know.
Literally, I don't know. I feel like during COVID, like I had a lot of time by myself. Like I think it was just like a sort of series of events. So like I'd just gone through a breakup, like the world was literally going into isolation. Like I did have to get comfortable being by myself, but I don't think there was ever a time where I was just like solely by myself. But no, I definitely did end up getting very comfortable in my own. Yeah.
Which is super important. And that was a massive growth point for you.
Yeah, I think that was a massive growth point. I think if anyone really like was there to see it, you were definitely.
Yeah, definitely. It was wild. It's cool as well how like through those like really tough times is when like the growth comes. Like Luke was saying this to us the other day, like he loves when he's just down in the dumps because like
he like
he's like
weird.
He's so weird. But he's like, I just know when I get through this, it's just gonna be so much growth. He's like, I love it. He's like, I welcome it on.
He craves it.
Yeah.
He honestly like he asks for it. Like
give it to me.
You've got to be so comfortable in knowing though, like you just don't know when it's gonna end. I feel like that was also like a hard part for me. I was like, when is this gonna end? Like when am I gonna be out of feeling like this? And then suddenly you like look back and you're like, oh, I'm out of it and stuff. But you've got to be comfortable with just like getting thrashed around.
Yeah, you have to be. You have to be. And you have to know that like you're here for X amount of time and you don't know how long that is. Yeah. And it's like, just find peace knowing that, like find peace in being able to wake up being like, today's going to suck.
Yeah, because like sometimes like when you have a date or you know a time when it's not going to suck anymore, it's like almost an excuse to feel shit.
Yeah.
And then that's just such a bad thing because then you're just going to spiral into that when that end date comes, whatever the reason may be.
Yeah.
Your habits are now just feeling sorry for yourself.
Yeah.
It's like that's just such a terrible thing to go through.
It's about doing like your daily practices every day until you finally get there. And then once you're there, keep doing your daily practices.
That is so true.
Like the biggest thing for me is like when I'm feeling good, don't stop. Like it's still behind you, like it's still there. Like just keep doing it and keep doing it.
You can fall back.
Yeah, that's what McConaughey talks about a lot. So he says like everyone's really good like when we're in the suck, like when our life is going terrible, we're great at like identifying like why things are going bad and like what we're doing. Like we know our behaviors, whether it's like going and eating 12 Krispy Kremes or whatever it is, like we know what we're doing. But the thing that people are terrible at is like when everything's going great, we're like, why is our life going great? We like forget about all the little things that we do. So that time, like that way, when we're in pain again, the next time it's like, oh, I go back and look at what I did when life was really great.
Literally.
And it's like, oh, I've actually stopped doing 99% of those things. Let's implement those and we'll get back to where we were.
Yeah. And I think it's like good going through those phases because you get people in your corner, you find things that like your soul food, like you find things that help you get out of that. And then, I mean, we're going to go through life and have all the, like so many of those moments. And I know next time, like I go through something, or like my mental health's not great, I literally know exactly what to do. I have my people, I have like my meditation teachers, I've got everything. Like, and I'm sure I'll continue to build on that through life. But I was talking to Mum about it the other day, and she just was saying like it's so amazing that so many kids in our generation, just like being aware of mental health and stuff like that, have all these tools and all these people in their corner at such a young age. Like at her age, she has so many friends, and I'm sure like her herself, who just come into that and just started finding those people and those tools. But I mean, by the time we're their age, like we'll have like, I'm sure not all the tools we need,
but we will have built upon so many. And that's the thing, like most of us are equipped with an amazing tool belt. Like for the most part, a lot of us where we are, like we have all these tools and techniques. It's just a matter of learning to use them and actually like putting them into practice, because again, it's one thing to just sit there with all of these tools, like all of these things we could be doing but never using.
and then like sharing them.
Yeah, it's different though, because I feel like our gen is like and this may not even be predicated on anything, it's just the way I'm thinking. It's just like our problems and the things we sort of deal with, like in terms of social pressure, etc. That seems to be a lot more heightened. So almost it's like as our tools are getting better, the actual pressures are getting harder. So it's like the thing you're trying to fix is getting bigger. So instead of fixing a chair like with a hammer, we're now fixing a house with power tools. It's like it's actually getting more and more, like it's
a good one. I love an analogy, and that was a good one.
Like it's actually getting, the tools get better, but the things we're combating are just harder to combat. So it's like, in saying that, yes, we do have more tools, but it's like we just need to almost get better at applying the tool. Because like just because the tools are better doesn't mean the problems are the same. The problems are harder, but it's like we just need to teach application of the tools, not that the tools are there.
They're kind of always going to be the hardest. Like it's only, as much as it elevates to like the power tool and the house, it's kind of always going to be the hammer and the chair, because like it's always just going to be the hardest thing. Like
that's what I can say. Whatever the next level of that analogy is, a building with a crane, whatever that may be, it's the same. It's only going to get harder. So it's like, what's the common denominator?
It's like when people try to diminish their own mental health issues or something. I was talking to someone last night, and he was talking about happiness, how like that is for him success, and how like everyone kind of comes back to that 7 out of 10. But what he was saying was, I've forgotten. Shit. No, give me a sec. Disrespect. What were you saying? What were you talking about? Hammer and the tool problems. Oh, this is what he was saying. So he was talking about, I forgot. No, I'm kidding. No, he was talking about how when he was feeling down, he was looking like at other people, being like, man, people have it so much worse than me. Like, I just need to shut up and get on with it, and like just forget about it. It's like, no, man, like for you, this is your 100. You haven't experienced what it's like to have no money or no food. Like, you're just experiencing what it's like to like have a car broken down on you, or whatever the situation was that he was going through. So it's like, for you, that is your 100. That's your hardest thing. And for that person, that's their hardest thing. Like, it's the same.
I know, you can kind of look at it and be like, oh, they're crying in their caviar, like, but I mean, that's what's real for you. That's what's going on.
Your circumstances have been given to you regardless of what you've not chosen your circumstances. So yes, you've been given that. You're going through a tough situation. It's like someone else goes through a tough situation. Maybe the consequences are different, and that's where they differ. But it's like you're still dealing with something tough. So you need to apply those practices as well.
Never like suppress anything. Like any of these feelings, we all have this desire to like get them out, to share, to feel. Like by you suppressing anything, that's just an unnatural movement. It's only going to result in bad things.
You've got to like speak about it, and then like share your tools. Like I have friends who are now going through stuff and they haven't been through stuff before, and when they like are open to having like a bit of help, like I'll share what has helped me, and whether it's like books or certain like people or like a therapist that I know of, or I think you've got to like help other people. Like,
no, 100%. And that's like, that is really what it's about in a way. It's, we go through these experiences so we can help other people navigate them. Like we share we have an amazing experience, like skydiving. Like I'm pretty sure anyone that's gone skydiving and has loved it has come back and told someone to go skydiving. Purely, literally.
I'm not doing it.
And it's like, what is that stemming from? It's stemming from me being like, I had the most amazing time. I want you guys to experience that as well. Like, or it's like when I've gone through a tough time and I'm like, oh, like going to the gym helped. It's like, dude, you have to join the gym. Like you have to. And it's coming purely from like just wanting to help people. And that's what most people naturally just desire to do.
100%. What do you in the next, like, what's like, you're in your current phase at the moment, like what do you want like to look like in the next year? Like what does your next year look like?
like a new path and like a new journey. Like I had my healing and all that like growth. I'm not saying we're not going to heal and grow this year, but like I'm sure there's going to be moments where I do, and there already has been moments. But I do just feel like I'm at like a new path. So I'm really just riding the wave at the moment. Like
that's so cool to hear.
I'm just like seeing where work's going to take me. I'm like happy in my job. I've got like Rocky and my dog Tully, and that sort of like does keep me quite busy. And I guess like in a year I hope that maybe, I was actually talking about this with Josh as well, like I do want to have a bit of a side hustle thing going on, but it's one of those things I've forced for a really long time. I'm just sort of seeing if it's going to come to me for a little bit. So at the moment I'm taking a step back from that and just like seeing where it goes, finding inspiration, seeing if something does like come towards me. It's very open. Universe, it's open if something wants to come to me. But yeah. So
that's so sick. And like to hear you were saying that you had trouble with trying to control things and like push things, and then to now be like the first thing you said when you said what you want to be doing is like riding the wave, which is so awesome. And then you're saying there's that thing you've been pushing forever, and you're conscious of the fact that you want to actually be riding the wave, and you're going to approach it like that. I'm sure it will come to you because of that. 100%.
I want to talk about the dream, the vision of like Phoebe's farm.
My vision.
Your farm.
Yes, I have. I feel like that's like my ultimate. I don't want to say my ultimate goal, but it's just something that like I really hope that I achieve.
Maybe aspiration's the right word because you're aspiring to have it.
Maybe like I don't know what it is. Maybe aspiration. I think we'll go aspiration. But I have this image of myself like on this big beautiful farm, which is just like full of like nurturing and holding like workshops, allowing other people to hold workshops there. Just having it as like a big creative space. And like I love my animals, like all I want to do is just be surrounded by animals and rescue animals when I'm older, and having it like a space for people to come stay, like whether it's like an Airbnb on it as well, and creating like a cookbook and just having it be like an epicenter of like beautiful creativity and like nurturing.
Like a compound.
Like sounding like culty. But like
so people come and they never leave.
And they never leave. But I just think there's so much like busyness here, and I've always been fortunate to have like access to animals and nature and like all that beautiful things, and like having the farm even growing up. But that's obviously like something I like never take for granted. It is a beautiful place, and being able to take friends there and just seeing their experience when they go and just seeing how beautiful it is. And some people really connect with it, and some people really connect with like we've got our little rescue cows there, and just seeing that in small doses. Like I want that on a bigger scale, and maybe with people I don't know as well. And
that's so cool.
I spoke about like doing like horse therapy, sorry to cut you off, doing equine therapy and stuff, and art therapy, and having like yoga teachers come and stuff.
That's so sick. And like you're saying, it's almost like a sense of like you've been exposed to all this stuff that's been so good for you, that it's like your thing is like, yes, the vision is the compound and like the farm or whatever, but it's like what you're actually trying to do is just share that with other people, like, so they can
what you were saying, like it's stuff that has just helped me, and like I love so much, and I want
like if you look like the initial step one in your brain is like you can see it, but then if you actually look past that, the actual reasoning behind it is because you want to share that with other people. And like I know Josh's like main thing at the moment is trying to share experience and stuff like that, which is just so cool.
Josh can come do his little like walking guides through the bush on my farm, and we'll do
a couple hikes. No, that's so sick.
Like, the ultimate week.
So that's something you sort of want to push for, and like obviously not the immediate future, but that's the sort of direction.
That's the direction. Like me and my sister, we were very lucky that we got to like grow up around animals, and I think that really like shaped me into who I was. And I hope that when I have a family one day, like I can raise my children on a farm and like have them growing up in a similar way, because I mean again it's like what I loved, and I want to be able to pass that on. So I think it's like in that more like future. So many people don't have that. Like in terms of like at their core, it's like, what do I want to be like? And that's not a bad thing at all. Like it's just like you haven't sort of gone through. How long have you had that sort of vision for? I don't know. It's been like I've always wanted to have like a farm and like live on a farm when I'm older. But I think like the idea of like collaborating, it sort of came about like around like COVID and stuff. And I was talking about maybe wanting to like start doing equine therapy And then I was like, oh, it could be bigger. Yeah. And then it's just like, it's gotten bigger and bigger. And I was like talking about it with my boyfriend Zeppelin the other day, and we were just like building on it and building on it, and allowing like having like artists in residence and like exhibitions there, and like
so much.
It's like, and that's the beautiful thing about dreaming. It never ends.
Yeah.
It never ends. You can just keep going, and like it's taking it one day from like, and naturally this will occur from the dream to the reality. It's like everything starts in the imagination before you write it on pen. It was in your head first, and that's beautiful, because I think that that's really like an encouragement for people to dream and to imagine. Like don't stop dreaming, just keep dreaming, because every invention ever started with a thought first. Before, like, I don't know, the car was made, somebody thought of, like, before it was a car, like a carriage and etc., but like somebody thought of a car in their head before they made the car. So dreams are the most important thing, and I think the longer you dream about it, the more you can like create this palace, this place, and then you start to like live it out, and then you start to refine it, and like before you've even made it, you're like, I know I don't want this, I know what I kind of want it to look like. So yeah, dreams are a beautiful thing.
That's cool. You said you had talked about it with your boyfriend as well, and you're kind of both collaborating, because like he knows you, so it's like he can give you some sort of like inspiration and stuff to like, oh no, she might like this, and like talking like that. The Chris Williamson, is he the modern wisdom? That guy, he was like on Rogan, he like initially started talking about how in America, because he's British, this guy, and he moved to America, and he said like the first thing he noticed by moving to America was that everyone wants to, like, if someone's doing well, they lift them up. Yeah. And it's like in, like he was saying in the UK, he felt like that, like people, like if you're doing really well, people like don't actually put you up, they put you down. So I think that like taking a message from that is so cool, like having yourself, like people around you who also actually keep putting you up. Definitely. That can link back to like,
having people in your corner.
Yeah, 100%. And like the people you were saying, like how like you went through some stuff, it's like you develop people through that.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's cool how it interlinks. Like you go through different stages, and that actually builds to your ultimate aspiration. Like you go through shit things, and they probably actually add to that farm. You know what I mean? They add things, because it's like, I got better through this, so I want other people to do it. And that adds to the farm too, which is so cool.
It's all just one big chain, everything.
Yeah, and I think like a big thing for me has been like manifesting. It's like what you were saying, like you think about it before it happens, and like I think like that's a form of like manifesting as well. Like when I was I said definitely
because we both said it. I was like, definitely.
When I was in like definitely one of my worst like spots during that time, I made this I just like went on Pinterest, and I had all these things I really wanted to achieve and wanted to do, and I made a mood board of everything and just like really sat with it and really thought about it. And it wasn't like all material things, it was like pictures of like friends like laughing, like jumping off a pier, and like just stuff like that.
That's so cool.
And I look back on that mood board now, and I have achieved everything that is on there.
That's beautiful.
And I want to do another one. I'm like, oh, that was great. Let's do it again. But that was a year of life and like trials and tribulations. And now I can look at it and be like, oh, literally.
All of that happened.
And I've like lost a couple of things along the way. I've gained a couple of things along the way. But if I look at it as like a whole, I'm like, oh, it all happened. I got there, and I thought I wasn't going to. So
yeah, manifestation.
It's such a powerful tool. And it's, again, manifestation is like, you can't force it. It comes when it wants to come. And I tried forcing so many things on that mood board, and when I finally have taken a step back and I look at it, I'm like, oh, it's all here, and it just happened. Like, naturally.
And it shows you want it. Like the fact that you're going to keep thinking about these things, like provided they're thoughts that like you're controlling and thoughts that you want, like it shows that you want it. Like if you're thinking about something for a year, clearly it means like you want to have that thing, which is so important.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool how it's not just this easy thing that's like, oh, you think about it and then you get it. Because like it's gonna like remove the amount of gratitude that you have when you do eventually get it, but it's also like you're not necessarily gonna want it. It's like when people go to get a tattoo. One of my friends told me, because I was thinking about getting one. This was like a while ago. Like I'm always open to it, but I would want to know that I want it.
You're not seeking getting a tattoo. You're seeking something, and then you go, oh, I want that.
Exactly. Yeah. And he said to me, he's like, think about it, like get some sketches or designs or whatever, and sit on it for 3 months, and if you still want it 3 months later, then get it.
That's a good.
It's the idea of like, because then you really know you want it, and like the longer you pull it out, that's like just the more that you want it. So if you did it for a year, then it's like, okay, clearly you want to get this tattoo, you should go get it. But so many people just like act upon things for the wrong reasons. Experience being like one of our friends, it kind of works. Like we were younger, and it was like if you spend $500, you get a duffel bag. You get a free duffel bag.
Henry.
Yeah. We're waiting for a bus. So like we were 16 or 15. This is at Culture Kings, by the way. So we had like 20 minutes to kill before we had to walk to the bus stop.
20 minutes. That's no time.
We walk in and it's like just a big sign, spend $500, get a free duffel bag. And it was like, free, I want that. So he just went into this like berserko mode and was like, guys, help me, I need to spend $500. Like, whoa, dude, calm down. No, you don't. What are you doing? He's like, no, I want it. And like, he just kept like repeating that he wanted it. So he's running around like, you're an idiot, dude. Like, we've tried to stop you, but whatever, you're going to do it. So he's running around. I just remember him coming up to us like 10 minutes in, like, I'm at like $420. Like, just grab something. I need to get to 500.
Because he was already in it. Like, he was already in.
Dude, like.
How old was he?
15, 16. So ends up like spending the 500, getting the duffel bag. We're on the bus, and like that's when he realized I actually didn't want this. Like, just the realization, the weight of like, I just spent $500 as a 16-year-old kid working a couple of shifts at Macca's a week. That's a lot of money. And then it's like, I don't even like this duffel bag. Like, I just got something that I didn't want. And that's where it's clouded. Like, in the moment, you might think you want it, but it's just a heightened emotion.
It's just the hype of
So
it.
you really got to like see it through to make sure you actually want it.
Yeah.
And that links back to you talking about your patience.
Yeah.
And how you do tasks. Yeah. And how you're doing tasks that you seem to be like pushing patience in you.
Yeah.
Like, that are more patient tasks and like slow.
Yeah, definitely pushing patient.
I just want to speak on your gratitude. Like, yeah, your level of gratitude and like getting to know your family a bit over the past like year and 2 years or whatever it is. Like, your parents have just like raised you right. Like, in my opinion, like you, and just like talking to your sister about the El Camino, like you guys are so in the space of like, and you mentioned it before, like wanting to like share those tools with other people and just help people. Like, you guys have so much gratitude for everything you've got, and you're so aware of like what you have, but you also just really want to share those experiences, share everything you can with other people. And I think that is just truly like a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
So yeah, your parents have definitely like done an amazing job.
There you go, Miles and Angeline.
That is so cool to hear.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, no,
The challenge I was going to say was, I would challenge everyone listening, and to you guys too, is to do something you don't usually do that promotes patience. So any sort of task during the week, like, can be big, small, whatever you can fit in.
counting the like blades of grass on a hill.
Yeah. Something that, Oh my God, what? You've actually done that?
Like when you're at the farm and you're just like sitting in a paddock and you're just like looking at the grass and you're just stuck.
Yeah, that sort of task. That's what I'm saying. Do that.
Just go sit in the paddock.
Right?
But yeah, like doing that, a task like that where it promotes patience, because I know I need to do that. And sometimes like I'll actually be moving like super fast. I'm like, oh my God. I look down at my wrist and like it says my heart rate and it's like up in the 90s. I'm like,
How crazy is that when you're moving like really fast and it's sort of frantic and you're not really paying attention, then you stop and you're like, well, I actually just need to.
or and I'm super dramatic. So I'll say something stupid and I'm just like, why did I say that? Like, it's just like, just dumb. I'm like, why did I even say that? Like, even yesterday I was not because we were fast, to be fair, I was just so scat yesterday for like just saying dumb shit. And I'm just like, why did I even say that? And like, I need to take more time to just like slow it down. Because especially when I talk, if we're in conversation or whatever, I just get so fired up and I'll just keep going and I'm just dramatic. So
I get very fired up too. Very fired up.
Well, it's passionate and it's a good thing. And like, that's
who you are.
That's a great thing to have, but it's also like, you want to control it as well. Like, you want to be able to be on the hand on the steering wheel.
Your spice, and it gives you a bit of fire. I was actually really back to the horses. I was talking to my one of my friends who's also a riding instructor, my friend's mum, and she was just saying my horse can be quite like quick off the leg and like a little bit anxious and stuff, and I'm really trying to like do a lot of calming things. And she was like, it's all great to like have him calm, but like that quick off the leg thing, that gives him his fire. Like, it makes him spicy when you ride him. Like, it's his personality. Like, so there is like something nice in like having that passion. You don't want to like get rid of it. You can like shape it and like put it in a certain direction, but you don't want to get rid of it.
Because sometimes like you may use that and it might not be in the right. That's what I'm almost trying to say, is like, sometimes it's like, I just want to have my hand on the steering wheel as much as I can. So I know, because I would never diminish it and be like, I need to fix that. I'm not fixing it. It's more just like, I need to be better.
And the most important thing with that is you want to make sure, like, yes, your hands are on the steering wheel, but you want to make sure if you're turning right, it's because you want to turn right, not because anybody else is telling you to.
So maybe control is the wrong word. I'm trying to articulate that as best I can, but I think control might actually not be the right word. It's almost like aware of it. Like, I don't know.
I think it's just like letting it flow, really, and learning to understand it.
I think understand is what I'm saying. So know what it's like to be patient. When like just to know what that feels like, so I know the opposing side of it. But yeah, I would challenge everyone listening, and then you guys to do something patient that you don't usually do.
Just off
Mine's
like
gonna
the
be
top of your head, what would be yours?
Was about to say it's actually going to be counting grass because you said that. I need to do that because that is so left wing. I would not have thought of it.
You'll find yourself, you'll get so lost in thought that you'll stop counting grass, but you'll still be like,
and you won't notice when you stop counting grass.
And then suddenly you'll like snap back into it, and then you just would have had like this great time by yourself to just get like completely lost in thought. Watching chickens, another great one.
Right.
Oh yeah, watching an animal.
Yeah, watching animals. Like go, there's so many horses around here.
Yeah.
Like if you guys just go like watch some horses for a bit, like that's good acting patience.
Yeah, definitely.
What about you?
Do you have
The thing
anything?
I would do, as in challenge.
Oh, I meant challenge, but what would you do?
Like, what's gonna be your patience?
Oh, the patience thing, just off the top of my head, it would probably honestly be like where we are, Kinmar Creek. There's like a really nice spot where I can just go and sit on this rock and just watch nature live around me. Watch the wind affect the trees, watch the trees like drop into the water, like just watch life happen around me at such a slow pace, but at such a, I don't know, peaceful pace. Probably something like that.
It's funny how when we think of like, oh, what's something we can do to be patient, like a lot of people, the first thought is like getting in nature and like, oh, like what's something in nature I can do to be patient? And I would love that to be like more
Just like predominant, like people's first reaction is like,
first reaction, like,
Is like,
so
get
like
outside.
just be out.
no, I love that.
First thought.
It shouldn't be like, oh, I should like, I don't know, just watch 10 hours of like the same video just on.
So that I just stop being angry at it and just deal with it. Yeah. Do you guys have a challenge at all?
I feel like I have like a few tools, but like I have a few things that are like very important for me to do every day. My first one is do 10 minutes of movement every day.
I love that.
No matter where you are. For me, that's lucky. Like the movement thing for me is like riding a horse, and that like thankfully goes hand in hand. But yeah, the 10 minutes of movement, you've got to get like out of your body sometimes, like whether it's like dance or like running or something, you've got to get things like flowing. So that's been like a big thing for me.
And you said in the morning?
In the morning.
Yeah.
10 minutes.
Morning. Always morning. I wish I could be one of those people that gets up and meditate, and I do want to start doing that. I'd love to see how that affects me, but it's just not with me. But I always say it's the people who don't think they need to meditate who need to meditate.
Yeah.
So I know I need to
Also don't
meditate,
force it.
but don't force it. It'll come. It'll happen. But yeah, the movement thing is like a really big thing for me. For a while, I was also doing this thing where I get bad at journaling but I want to be good at journaling. So I was reading this book called The Artist's Way, and they start with exercises, and one exercise is to write 3 pages of just like words, and it's just like bullshit. Like it can be literally whatever you want, but just getting like your thoughts out, I think in the morning is also a good thing, whether that's like a chat with someone quickly or like writing or
It acts as like the ignition. It's like the initial kickoff. And then you're like, whoa, we're going.
I think journaling's like pretty powerful as well, and I think like if you have like a lot of thoughts in your head, like sometimes I feel like I get a really busy mind and like there's just like a lot of chatter, and I think if I don't take out the garbage bags, like it just rots. So for me, like
That's an analogy.
having a good chat with someone or like writing down just pages of thoughts, it just takes the garbage out.
Yeah. It just organizes your kitchen, your life well.
Yeah.
Maybe that can be your challenge then. It's just like 10 minutes of movement or like some form of like initial ignition in the morning. So like journaling, movement, anything in that.
Just something to check in with yourself
Yeah.
is more like the movements, the physical, like feel yourself out, and then the journaling's like the mental, the emotional connection, like listen to yourself a bit more.
That's actually a very good one for me at the moment, actually, because I have just been like getting up and getting into my day. I'm like get up 5:30, like go up to the stables, and then as soon as I'm done that, it's like bus, work, bus, home, watch some Netflix.
Yeah, it's so important to set intent. I was talking to someone about this a while ago, but you can like wake up, there's like, if someone wakes up and they set 5 minutes, 10 minutes aside to meditate or journal, read, whatever it is they're doing, they can think about their day, set an intent for their day. What do they want to do throughout the day? How do they want to go about their day? How do they want to present themselves throughout the day? Whereas there's the person that wakes up like to their alarm 5 minutes late or something, they hit the snooze and then they have to rush. They get dressed, get out of the house, and it's like they're already like anxious and stressed now. And it's like there's these two people driving, like the calm guy and then the stressed dude. And it's like someone cuts them off in traffic, the guy that's just like reactive and stressed, just on the horn, angry. He now gets to work and he's just mad for the whole day.
First interaction with his co-worker is like, dude, you should have seen what fucking happened.
Yeah, exactly.
You're already pissed off.
And then they've already affected that person.
Yeah, and it just spirals on. Whereas like the calm guy is like, oh, he cut me off. And it's like, no, like I set intention that I wanted to be calm and present today and happy. For me to get angry and beat this guy is doing nothing. Like this guy cut me off because
it's not like you're avoiding being angry though. It's just like you're just not in a
navigate.
space of where you're like you're just not like you're not actually that mad at it. You're like, oh, that's
He didn't cut me off. I let him.
anyway. I have a bigger purpose today. Whatever.
Yeah.
Like you don't actually care. It's not like you're like I'm not going to be angry. It's more just like whatever. Like it just happened. Yeah. I think we were talking about that with Finn because we were talking about like the bed making thing and like cleaning your room and like how I was like that was just and you guys were like we were debating like what it's like making a bed in the morning if that actually helps, and we landed on like, well, it's just intentional.
I think
it's just the fact that you intended to do something is a good thing. That's what the overarching thing.
Stuff. I need to be way more intentional with like my space and like the trail I leave behind. Like I can be so messy in like the things I do. Mum always says like you can see where I've been in the kitchen. Where it's like,
Let's go.
But I think being intentional is like a big thing, especially like for me in the mornings.
100%.
Yeah, I would say like thinking of a challenge. The challenge for me is probably just like challenge yourself to sort of have no challenge, no pressures this week. Obviously, like complete the two challenges that you two guys said, because like they're the challenges that have to be done. But no, like just allow yourself to like not live up to any expectations, external pressures. Just allow yourself to be genuine. Allow yourself to create what you want to create, not because somebody else is telling you to create that or live that certain way. So just try and move throughout your week in a way where you're just you're living the way you want to live.
Awesome.
Yeah, high flow.
High flow.
This was high flow. Are you the high flow person that I always talk about high flow with, or like having flow?
Yeah.
That's so good.
This was great though.
This was a high flow conversation.
Was a high flow combo.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys.
No,
my pleasure.
That's all good.
Our pleasure.
Yeah. We love you all, and we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah. Adios, mi amigos.
Bye, guys.
I can see my screen on.